2018 regular school board meeting. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Estheimer, he's excused. Mr. Freitas?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Kupser?
Here.
Ms. Mossop?
Present.
Dr. Pomponio?
Here.
Mr. Craig?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Southgate's mission statement is learning for life. The vision statement is Southgate Community Schools, the best choice for students and parents. That brings us to the approval of the agenda. We have, I believe, one revision.
I'd like to make a motion to revise the agenda to include, under presentations, number 2, a construction update with Rob Kukowski.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio and supported by Mr. Green. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. So we have an agenda. Citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens here to make comments tonight? No? Okay. So we're on to presentations, the elementary school improvement team presentation.
Parade of Stars. Gonna wind up the dog.
Nielsen always starts.
I feel like Mark Zuckerberg.
Rob, you look very important. I, for one, love it. So while that's warming up, we're glad to be here, glad to be back. It's your veteran team here, right? How many years? How many superintendents? Congratulations. Congratulations. It's not a bad thing. It's just how long we've been around. And to you also, Michelle, congratulations. It's good stuff. So our introductions are, I'm Allison Hanna. I teach 4th grade at Shelters.
I'm Cheryl Noble. I teach kindergarten at Allen. Tammy Holt. I teach 3rd grade at Shelters.
Melissa Kochanowski. I teach the transitional kindergarten at Grogan.
Shannon Pacharzik, Fordline kindergarten.
Allie Kopp. I teach 5th grade at Fordline.
So my colleague Tammy and I from Shelters are going to share this slide called Goals. Where do we want to be and how are we getting there? The first bullet point deals with where do we want to be. We want students to demonstrate increased proficiency and growth and proficiency. Growth and proficiency translate into student achievement and success. You can almost swap those words out, achievement for growth, success for attaining proficiency. And that probably makes it the most obvious and logical goal in all of education. But I'll briefly talk about the difference between the two terms and also focus on the word demonstrate. How and where do we want kids to demonstrate their growth and proficiency? And I don't want to steal Melissa's thunder, but the first point is that she's going to share a slide with you called the Michigan School Index System. And that new accountability index was formerly the MDE scorecard. And a whopping 63% of a school's overall accountability index is made up of student growth and proficiency. That would be a breakdown of 34% weighted on growth and 29% weighted on proficiency. So if you look at the, we want students to demonstrate increased growth and proficiency, make no mistake about it, we do mean part and parcel on the M-STEP. Not in any way for kids to feel intimidated or pressured to do well on the M-STEP, but having it be one of the best ways that we shine as a district and show that our elementary schools are doing their job. So we do want kids to demonstrate growth and proficiency on the M-STEP, and Melissa will get a little bit more into that. Probably more importantly, especially to all of the educators in the room, or any parent, really anybody, the more important beyond that on the M step is growth and proficiency in terms of classroom learning, the day-to-day activities that go on in our classroom, and the fact that growth and showing proficiency are two entirely different things. Growth accounts for the fact that all students come to us at our grade level at different achievement levels, and that's a fact of life. So when you're setting growth targets and growth goals that can be fluid, the wonderful thing about it is you're setting students up for success no matter where they're starting from, knowing that you can set those targets for growth and make them attainable, have the kids be part of that process and make it achievable, and that is growth. That is not meeting the standard or proficiency of a grade level. That is saying a child came to me with this skill in language arts or this skill in math or writing, which varies way across the board, and they have brought themselves up to this point. And then proficiency is a set of standards for achievement that are in line with the Common Core. Those are expected and hoped for at the end of all grade levels by all students, and they serve their purpose too. Not insofar as if you don't make this goal by the end of the year, you are not a success, because you already shown you are, because you grew, but the proficiency standards serve that very important role of having expectations clear for teachers, parents, and students, having expectations for the kids to aim for, being very clear, and keeping our expectations high, and as I said before, in line with all the expectations of Common Core. So with that said, our elementary staff aims to have all students, first and foremost, have a love of learning, and feel, and more importantly, own their own personal success story that we try to help foster and achieve in any way that we can. And my colleague, Tammy Holt, is going to tell you some of the dynamic teaching strategies that we're using to try to get our students there.
Thank you. As teachers, we are still continuing to work toward increasing student engagement. This has been our goal for several years, and I must say as teachers we appreciate that we're allowed to have a non-moving target. This target has stayed the same for several years in a row. However, I'm going to use one of Ms. Hannah's words and say it's also fluid, because even though the goal has stayed the same, we've been finding different ways to make inroads on that goal. So for instance, we've been learning about group protocols so that teachers have ways of engaging students in so that they don't have to come up with inventing the wheel every single day, that we're able to come up with research-based ways to engage students. We've been learning about TPTs still. We've had some more PD on TPTs, which are total participation techniques to engage all students. We've been working on memory enhancements for students, because we know that students with better memory are able to have better success. So things such as rehearsal and mnemonics. And we're always going toward those higher order thinking skills. So if we're looking at a lesson that has the lower order, we're always trying to increase it toward analysis, synthesis, evaluation. And I'm done, unless you have any questions.
Carrying on from what my colleagues have already presented to you, progress towards our goals has been supported this year with a great deal of professional development. We have several new curriculum pieces that we've had training on and have begun to implement. At the elementary level, we have a new literacy curriculum, Wonders. Is the name of our ELA curriculum. And so we had both professional development before the school year started and a pacing guide that was worked on quite carefully to try to make sure that everybody's on the same page at the same time. We also have been, over the last couple of years, working on introducing the new next generation science standards. And the upper grade levels had professional development last year, and the lower grade levels had it this year.
Lots of wonderful hands-on activities. A huge improvement, from my own personal opinion, on materials and things that are ready to use for kids and are easier for the teachers to implement. We also put together and had additional professional development for our Eureka Math alignment, again, to make sure that we've got pacing guides and that we're all 4 of the buildings are instructing students on the same materials at approximately the same time. Some of the other professional development that we've had this year has also been in regards to the total participation techniques that Mrs. Holt just referred to, and things that are supporting our instructional, the 5D instructional framework, which we've used for teacher evaluation, but also because of the focus for our evaluation, that supports us on being better teachers and improving ourselves and our instruction. One of the things that has been, I think, a really positive approach that we've taken with the 5D Plus is that we had a district-wide area of focus that all of the buildings in the district were focusing on. And it was in the area of purpose, specifically learning targets and success criteria. And one of the reasons why this has been so helpful and effective is that the success criteria are steps that make it really, really clear to the students exactly what they need to do to be able to reach the learning goal for that lesson, for that day, for that week. And they change with each lesson that we present. And because of the professional development that we've had for that, to support those, and the district-wide focus on this, that's enabled all of the teaching staff to be able to work together, share ideas on how we can all improve together as a staff, and I think really engage our students and lift them up and give them a clearer focus to help themselves be able to reach their own personal learning goals. One of the other things that we've made progress with this year is with the 3rd grade reading law. That's changed a lot of some of the approaches that we've been taking, refined them perhaps a bit for supporting students who are struggling in the literacy areas. And so our reading specialists are really zeroing in and focusing on those students who are falling behind. And our interventionists, through our monthly MTSS meetings, are working together as a team with the staff to be able to identify and help support our students who are struggling and need that extra little bit of help to bridge the gap. Finally, one other thing that has been very valuable is our increased access to technology. With the bond spending that's occurred, we've had additional computers and Chrome carts available. My grade level just got access to some right before break, and they have touch screens, and so the kindergartners are really excited because they usually have to wait while the older students get turns first. This has been really vital because all of the testing now is being accessed through technology. Students who don't have enough experience working with the different kinds of technology that they need to use for that testing are not going to be able to be very successful at the testing. Not perhaps because they don't understand the material, but because accessing it without experience with the tools can hold them back. And as a kindergarten teacher, I see that in a really, really big way, because I have kindergartners now who are, all of our kindergarten students are being tested now at the beginning of the year and coming up in a few weeks. And so many of them haven't had any experience using a computer with a mouse, for example. They might have gotten a chance to work with their parents' phones or tablets, but they're used to just, you know, touching and having things work, and having to be able to click and drag and use different keys to be able to access it is a whole new world for them. So we really appreciate the investment that the Southgate community has made in increasing this access to technology. And we hope that the extra experiences that our students get are going to aid them in their progress toward their goals as well.
Hi. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Cheryl said a moment ago, and our evidence toward our progress is what we are doing making a difference. For starters, I'm going to highlight a few key pieces that we use. We use the multi-tiered system of support, which we call MTSS, and it is our main intervention for our general education students. We hold monthly meetings that are run by our superintendent, and it's made up of a team that includes our principals, our teachers, interventionists, reading specialists, social workers. And at these meetings, we not only assess the students' progress, but we make decisions about programming and targeted interventions for our struggling students. So that's one of the things that we're doing that provides the evidence that we know we're going in the right direction. Next, we use MyStar-DNA district-wide, and it's a tool that allows us to collect and analyze student assessment data. We can create custom reports, pull up student history profiles, and create student groups that are flexible. We can also create our own assessments, including video embedding, fill-in-the-blank questions, multiple choice questions, selectable text, and a lot of other types of questioning that you can use. We can align our questions with more than one content standard on the assessments, and we can scan student reusable answer sheets with our document cameras right at our desks, and we can also assess them that way just by scanning their answers, and they go into the MyStar-DNA. And we can also give online tests. And lastly, through the creation of our transitional kindergarten or Young Fives program in our district, we've been able to give the gift of a growth year to so many of our youngest learners who needed it, and that's providing a much stronger foundation for these kids for school success. We have not been able to collect true trend data because true trend data follows students for 3 years, so we don't have that yet. We are in some basic data collection right now, and I was able to pull together some figures that I want to share with you about our first 2 years of programming. So our first group of TK or Young Five learners are now in first grade, and our second group is now in kindergarten. So I've followed those students up, and I've followed up with their first grade and kindergarten teachers just to kind of double check where they're at right now. And of the students who went through the program, 100% of those kids that are still in our district are at or above grade level in ELA, and 93% are at or above grade level in math. So I personally take a lot of pride in that, because that was a program that I, for years, knew that I wanted and needed, and that we needed in this district. And I've gone to great lengths to make sure that we are doing what needs to be done for these students. So I take a lot of pride in that, because to me that's solid proof that our program is working and that we are providing that strong foundation that those youngest learners need, that those incoming students who didn't have an option before now have that option. So I take a lot of pride in that. So I thought that was really good information. Scroll to the next one. And on the next one, Allison pretty much talked to you about the Michigan School Index System, which was formerly the Accountability Scorecard. At the time that we put together our presentation, the information was embargoed, and I know that it has been released, but we haven't been able to get back together to go over and analyze a lot of that data since it was released. So we will just stick with all of our elementary buildings are exceeding the state baseline value for proficiency in both ELA and math. So also very good news.
So our next slide, what changes may be necessary for next year for 2018-19. And on the top of the list is our updated safety and security plan, which we already have kind of in the works, and we're deciding what to do there. The next part is our programming and support specific to the third grade reading legislation, and we talked a little bit about that. So kids who are in third grade by the end and they're not making the cut, they're either one or more levels behind in reading, could be retained. And we don't want that to happen, so K through 2, we're working really hard and putting different programs and deciding what to do to get all those kids up to the level that they need to be at. The third bullet, increased focus on social and emotional skills for our kids. How to cope with today's world. It's hard for adults, much less children, so that kind of goes back with our security and safety plan. So we're going to look into ways we can help with emotional skills. And lastly, the elementary buildings, some of them and other teachers throughout the district do instructional rounds, and if you don't know what that is, it's where teachers observe other teachers and they kind of compare their own learning and teaching style with what they've seen, and it's really beneficial after, like, for your self-reflection. It's not necessarily what the teacher they observed is doing, but it's kind of, hey, what is that teacher doing? What can I take from him or her? So that's something we want to keep going and maybe expand to more buildings and more classrooms.
And I'm the last to speak, so I get the joy of spreading our success stories. All of our elementaries work very hard, as do all of our buildings. I think in elementary, focus is community, and parents, children, school relationships need to be bridged together for success. And I think through a lot of our activities, that provides that opportunity. So just one I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to be up here real long, is the math night. Math is very different from when we learned how to do math, as you probably all know. And we find that our parents struggle tremendously with how to help their children, even in kindergarten, first, second, third grade. It's just completely different. So math night is a great opportunity for the kids to come and have fun, but also for the parents to learn, hey, this is what we're doing. This is some examples of how we do our multiplication, or how we're working on division, or what this word means. And so our parents get a little bit informed and leave with some information to make themselves feel better, because we all know we don't like to not feel as smart as our children. And we are able to give them what they need to help their children and also understand better what's happening. So math night, those nights of just curriculum, helping parents really seem to bridge that gap, because when parents are frustrated, we've all been there before, it's hard. So success stories, that's just a few. Honestly, we could probably put double, triple up there from the things that elementaries do and take pride in. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
So is it Q&A coming, or should we bow?
Any questions? Dr. Pomponio.
What are the TPTs? Do you have any examples of the TPTs, the total participation techniques? I don't think I've heard that one before.
Sure do.
Like when I do it in my class, that is
I've
like,
got the book. So the TPTs include, you've got a handy list in the front. So think, pair, share. So the students, you ask a question, they get a moment to think, they talk about it, and then they can share out. So instead of just asking cold questions, so for instance, you asked me a question, what are the TPTs? You'd say, okay, so think about it. We'd take a minute to do our research or think about it. And then we would get together and we'd discuss it. What are those TPTs? Because I just got asked a question and, what are we going to do? And then we'd share it with you. So that would be an example. Categorizing and sorting, mouthing it. Instead of saying the answer out loud, you might just say, lecture, T-chart, pause, star, rank, debate, team, carousel, the one-liner.
I think it looks different.
thumbs up, thumbs down.
It looks different.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm here, I'm here, I'm here.
Flashing
Where are
cards,
you in
right.
your learning? I think one of the things that's really important and essential about that, though, is the fact that students are all participating. I mean, the words in it are the big deal. So
if you think back to maybe some of your school years, when the teacher might be lecturing and you might be tuning out, or you might have been one of those advanced readers who was impatient and didn't want to wait and listen while somebody else was round reading. And so you'd have your fingers stuck in the book to where everybody else was, and you were already like 8 pages ahead. Both of those extremes, you know, can happen, but when you're using total participation techniques, everybody is involved and in doing something that's essential for the lesson.
That
right
makes a
then.
quick write one of my favorites, because when you feel like they're starting to they never know when it's coming. If you keep those slips of paper around called a quick write, just at any point, boom, you pass them out and here we go, and everybody's involved, or you know who wasn't.
Is that like a brainstorming?
It's fun. It's just a quick write based on a prompt that's right in the moment. And it's timed, and it's fun, because you flip your paper, you have to wait, you know, until the prompt, and it's one, you know, ready, set, go, flip, write. And they try to get what they can out in, you know, whatever, you know, length of time you give it. It's fun. Right?
Is that something
Sometimes they're
new?
Flying during a quick write.
Is that something new, or is this
Total
been
participation
used
techniques,
before?
how long is this?
We've been doing it a few years.
For 2 or 3 years.
Mrs. Pastor introduced the PD to us, and then if you didn't go to that PD, you were totally out. You know,
Because it also-
we had to go back to our buildings and then re-PD.
Because it also tied right into the making thinking visible. Because any TPT is a time where when you want to know what's going on in their head, you use a TPT and you find out. So total participation techniques then went hand in hand with your next charge, which was making learning visible.
So I just want to say that those were optional after-school book studies, and that staff that were not required to attend.
They look different in every grade too. Like with my kids, they come in, they're 4 years old. So for me, a common TPT that we use in my classes, when we're subitizing, that's one of the math terms that no one understands anymore. So you show the kids tens frame with some dots in it, and you want them to just quickly be able to tell you how many dots are in it without counting. So you'll flash them the tens frame and turn around and say, okay, how many do you think it was? Whisper, catch your answer, don't shout it so that no one else can hear. And then I'll call on someone who's holding their answer and say, you know, if you got the same answer as them, show me too. And you'll see the kids that'll say, yeah, I got the same answer. And if you didn't get the same answer, keep holding. And then you call on someone who got a different answer so that you can turn it over and talk about what the right answer was and how did you come to the right one, how did you come to the wrong one. And because they're all doing something, with my kids, any of the TPTs, it's a big deal if they involve movement. Anything kinesthetic, anything they're doing with their body makes their brain engaged. So anything that you can do to get them to pay attention, you know, so they're whispering it, they're holding it, they're waiting to be called on, they're agreeing, they're disagreeing.
They're engaged.
Yeah, they're engaged. It just gives them an opportunity to, you know, they're listening, they know whether or not they have the
Engaged
right
was
answer.
the right
They
word.
don't have to put themselves out there and raise their hand and give a wrong answer. If they really don't want to, they can just say, yeah, me too.
That's great.
So it gives them an opportunity to participate without having to put themselves on the line and possibly feel bad about being wrong.
That's great. And I wanted to take this opportunity to say that, you know, we talk about different programs and everything, but I just want to say how proud I feel of how deeply invested you are and for as many years as you've been doing this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Ms. Masso.
I did have a question, but first, I always appreciate when you guys present, you do it with such zeal, and it's very evident that you love what you do, you care about what you do, and you're into it. So when the teachers are into it, the kids, you know, way more get involved in it. So we love to see that and how excited you are. Even though there was no timing held up this time, you still were very excited.
I quit doing that a couple years ago.
we all still are wounded from some of it. For your 2018-19 goals, I like that they were that they're short. There were 4 of them. They're comprehensive. They are low-hanging fruits and all very important. So I would ask, as we're getting ready to wrap up this school year, where are we at, or what has been the focus on the first item, safety, and then the third one for focus, social and emotional needs of the kids?
Well, we have the, is it panoramic? Panorama that the counselors have, the students take this assessment and then, or the teachers do it, because it's different per grade level. Like my students did it, but I know some of the teachers did it. And they use that information to determine what they need to work on as far as its grit or various integrity, different criteria, and the counselors then pull them out to work on that social growth. That's one way that this year it's targeted a little bit more on what they need.
One of the other goals that was very nice this year as well is that I believe it's covered by a grant, but instead of having one counselor cover all 4 elementary buildings, this year we moved up to having 2. It would be absolutely amazing and wonderful if we can ever find the funds to be able to dedicate a counselor per building. That would be just, it's so needed for so many of our students. And our counselors are amazing and wonderful and work really, really hard. But there's such a great need.
More than ever.
More than
the
ever.
counselors to meet with those kids one-on-one who have things that need to be said privately to a trusted adult who has their complete focus. And also the groups, all the groups, you know, to try to bring back, you know, the self-esteem group and the family loss and grief group. And
Definitely.
right, that we have children sitting around the table saying to each other, I'm not alone, and I'm in a safe environment with a counselor and other students who feel the same way I feel and who are experiencing the same things that I'm experiencing. So I am very passionate about wanting the staffing, you know, to help the most struggling of our students with the things that they have going on in their lives. That are
to address that too, one of the things that we were able to do by going back to having a counselor for every 2 buildings instead of every 4 is in kindergarten and I believe first grade, but I could be wrong. The counselors or the social workers, they're coming in and they're doing lessons on these different things that the kids need. So they come in every week and they do a lesson on friendship, and they do a lesson every single week. They gear it around what they have determined is the need for social and emotional help in the classroom. So they talk to us and we talk about what's going on in our room, and they will give lessons about friendship and telling the truth and being bucket fillers instead of bucket dippers, and they do bullying lessons and things like that. So we have been able to get back to some of those lessons, and it starts with those little itty bitties, you know, and you have to catch them at that young age and get them all the way up. So we have been able to go back to some of those lessons in the classrooms, and that's really nice. So that's one thing that we've been able to do.
So with the panorama assessment, are students, can they allocate to say that they want to participate? I know they're at such a young age. Would they understand how to, you know, want to do that, or are they referred, and how is that process?
The little ones did it.
The classroom teachers,
The classroom teachers.
Do the evaluation for the younger grades, for the younger students. I personally haven't found Panorama to be quite as effective with like 4- and 5-year-olds. It seems geared towards slightly older students.
Almost junior high level.
Or even the upper elementary. Students who are old enough to be able to read and reflect themselves, I think, probably get the most benefit out of it.
True, but they're also old enough too to say, I have an issue, I have a problem, I need to talk.
But it also, it has some universal aspects to it as well, that you know, even when the kindergarten teachers are looking at their students and thinking, you know, who do I see who gets stressed out when they're presented with new material? Who do I see who tries something but gives up the first time that they have a setback? Those are the kinds of things that they're looking at in the panorama. And so some of those are universal, and you can see whether it's an adult that's doing it for the children or the children themselves.
Being a teacher that did not assess my students, my students assess themselves, and I found it beneficial, but I have some children that don't see themselves truly who they are because
Self-awareness isn't there yet.
And so I do think, I would have liked to have had a little bit of say in that, because I have some students that maybe might have, they just don't see themselves sometimes. They struggle.
No, you're right.
And
You're right.
so I think maybe it's a balance between the two. The students maybe suggesting, but then also teachers do. But I think it's been beneficial to target the children that do need the help, and then the social workers are able to work with them on those skills that they are lacking in, and that is very powerful.
And then, and thank you for that. And then with the safety concerns, what has been going on at this level as we wrap up one year and getting ready to move into another?
I think the number one thing was the new construction of the different the buildings and new vestibules and just to make the physical school.
So you're speaking of physical
Right now,
safety.
right.
Okay.
No, in the elementary school, I don't feel like we are not safe. I feel like we are so safe in our elementary schools. See, we have the buzzer systems. Parents have to come in through the office. They have to sign in. They see someone before they can access the kids. I don't know that any of the students that I've ever had conversations with about this feel like they're unsafe. I think one of the things that we see when we do our student perception surveys is that students do feel safe at school. And I think that on that front, we are doing a really good job already. I don't know, I can't speak to the secondary level, but at the elementary level, I feel like we are already doing a really good job there. And I know that there are committees set up to have meetings to get further, things accomplished, but I think that what we have going on in the elementaries right now with the new construction and the systems that they put in place, I think our students feel really safe already.
So as you guys know, the school improvement team presentations have kind of evolved. It started out where it was like 6 hours. Each building did their own, and then we honed it down and we came to this. And 3 or 4 years ago, Shelters was posed, each school was posed a question, but I specifically remember Shelters was, if you had a wish list on things that you would want for your school to make it feel like it was a more healthy, safe environment, and we're talking about physicality again. And what was brought up by the principal at the time was the buzzer at the front door, and he said a few other things. So in the last 3 or 4 years, do you feel like there have been major improvements with, if you were to go back now and say, do you think that wish list had all of its ticks taken off, or?
I think a lot of them. I think one of the big things is, we've privatized our custodians. Poor guys, they don't make much money. I feel like, that could, if we had the money, that could maybe change. That would be on my wish list for sure.
Okay.
Go back to, district employees as custodians, because they take pride in what they do, and your buildings are always better for it.
And you know everyone.
Yeah.
Because there's longevity.
Yeah, there's for sure the longevity. We've had a lot of in and out in our building with our head custodian, so.
Thank you for being so open about that.
That would be my wish list.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Mr. Green?
Mr. President, I'm a firm believer as a high school teacher that the foundations are built, the elementary school, so I respect everything, and in both presentations, or when the presentations I've seen in 2 years, you guys are always on point, and I appreciate everything you do. And I've seen a lot of you in action, Grogan more so than others, being a parent, obviously, I wear a different hat. So I've seen the pre-K. I've been invited in the classroom multiple times. It's absolutely wonderful. So, I just appreciate everything you all do. Even Mr. Kennedy back there, who taught my daughter, wonderful teacher. Mr. Wolzek, who I knew forever. I was in high school, and he was, I'm just kidding, but I've known him a long time. But in all honesty, you guys, truly appreciate all your efforts, your presentations, and what you do for our element. I think it's wonderful that 100% of those students are at or above the level. I mean, that's amazing. So, appreciate your efforts for sure.
Okay, all set?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, our added item, construction update from Rob Kukowski. Should have had you go first, Rob. That's
I was going to say, that tough one to follow here. I will keep mine short and simple here today.
You just got some praise. They said they love all the work they feel safe.
Yes.
So it's a good time to
Definitely. No, just wanted to give you guys an update. It's been a couple months since been here to present to you guys, get you an updated dashboard, kind of update where we're at as we're, really kind of starting to wind down a little bit, but update you guys, passed out the dashboard. So main thing you'll see in, the middle of the budget summary and the cash flow, we did reconcile the budgets between eBuilder and the district on April 6th here recently. Everything is checked out and we are currently up to date with everything, and to the penny, everything matches between our books. So I think that was pretty exciting, I know, for Teresa and our accounting department as well, when they match out to the penny with everything. So budget-wise, everything's up to date right now. If you look at like the construction project phasing schedule up in the upper right-hand corner, we had it laid out from 2.5 years ago when we started the work for 2016, 17, and 18. We've checked off all that work for the most part. So looking at the work for this year for 2018, we have the roof replacements at Anderson, which is currently on schedule, contractors on board, and then starting to do some furniture upgrades at the schools. We have some budgets at each of the schools with furniture, and we're starting to get with contractors and get some pricing and get some items going on that. So really moving forward, staying with that phasing schedule and checking off everything associated with the bond on that. Looking at some of the work recently completed, we did wrap up the Anderson Auditorium sound and lighting project with the curtain replacements. We finished that in early February, turned that space back over. And then bid pack 6 and 7, we had some punch list items that drug on a little bit. We had some materials that we were waiting on for later delivery towards the end of the year and earlier this year. All those have really been wrapped up. The only thing we really have outstanding is kind of site restoration and some paint touch-ups and stuff exterior that we couldn't get done before the weather turned. So now that we're starting to see the weather, later this month, we'll probably get out there and start wrapping that stuff up. And then as the progress photo shows, one thing I didn't list there was the softball backstop pads just got installed last week. So I know the season's either getting started or getting ready to have their first home game. So
snow.
What's that?
They played in the snow yesterday.
Did they? Fun. So got that installed and ready and turned over to them. And then some of the upcoming work we have, like I said, the site restoration and touch-ups. You'll see some contractors out there starting to touch up where either grass didn't take or some of the areas didn't get restored before the weather turned. They'll be out there to touch all those up here this spring. Maybe some touch-up paint, some caulking on some doors that recently has been done as well. So. And then the Anderson roof, we do have a kickoff meeting this Friday, bringing the contractor in, along with the consultant structure tech, to have a meeting Friday to kind of gear up and get ready as we're inside of, about 2 months away, kind of bring them in, start talking logistics, phasing, planning. We can start putting our schedule together, how we're going to tackle the high school, because we're quite a bit of work going on at the roof, with the roof at Anderson. So be multiple phases and kind of start planning how they're going to come in, where they're going to access the site, and work all that. So that meeting will be Friday, and then that ties into kind of our short-term milestone tasks. Wrap everything up. The closeout bid pack 6 and 7 in May. We're really looking to wrap Clark Construction up. They get this restoration done, we can close out their contract not only for 6 and 7, which was last year's work, but bid packs 1 through 5, their entire contract. So really, in the next month or two, we're looking to have Clark really closed out and their contract finalized for this project. So kind of summarizes where we're at right now. Any questions, anything I can answer for you guys, or we're kind of getting ready for summer with the roofing.
Mr. Koopser. Thank you, Mr. President. As related to the bid packs, there was always an item that was on there that was contingency. Do we at all know where those contingency dollars, how they've been reported on here? The question was, would they need to be spent, and if they were, that was acceptable as part of the bid pack, but if they weren't, were they going to be reused for other items? And I'm just curious when those come back in terms of contingency, if they weren't spent, and what that reporting looks like.
We will have those as we're closing out Clark here in the next few weeks. We're just finishing up the last few things, and in the next 3 to 4 weeks we'll have those, and we'll have a report of what gets returned back from Clark Construction on their side and have them closed out. So I don't have those numbers yet, but we will here very shortly.
So is it our due diligence then, and maybe this is a question for Ms. Pastor, as it relates to bid spend, or bond spend, it still has to be on capital improvements. If we have contingency dollars, it would be then reevaluated by the district to make those investments?
Yeah, so
Out of
at
Clark's
the monthly
control.
bond meetings, we definitely are talking about contingencies and other funds. And so, for example, my goal is to replace the bathrooms outside the auditorium at Anderson that are used the most, and they are shy of disgusting. And so a total gut is around $200,000, and I'm looking forward to saving enough money to replace those in the summer of 2019.
Excellent.
I just didn't know how much dollar amount we're thinking around that may be available within that contingency dollars.
Well, we also have, thanks to putting the money in the bank, we also have some interest from the bond that we're upwards of 180,000+, so we're really getting close to that amount.
Okay.
And the roof is the biggest wonder because of some things that might be uncovered during the roof contingency. So we are definitely talking about all of those things. And I guess my goal is to spend the money on things that are going to make a big difference for this district. And those bathrooms are high need.
Can I ask a different question as related to the contingency that was potentially not used on previous bid packs, where they rolled into an ongoing budget for bid packs 6, 7, and with the roof? Or was that, as they were closed, they were accounted for separately?
Ooh.
So, I mean, it's kind of, I know that you got the roof coming. There was a contingency in that bid pack.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is not to exceed that. I don't know if normally on a contractor, they wouldn't.
I don't think we've closed out any of them yet,
No.
so
6 and 7 are the last ones. 1 through 5, what we closed out was rolled back into the owner contingency, and we have a line item for that. And we've held that, and then once 6 and 7 wraps up and we get Clark completely done, we get their CM contingency that they have pulled back in, then we'll know that kind of full dollar amount of where we're at. And then, like I said, we've kind of had a running list of potential wish list items or things we might want to look at, and I think the goal is to start getting some pricing for it and probably be presenting some of that to you to, would you like to do this or that, or so over the course of I think this summer we'll be starting to look into some of that.
I knew there was a big list. I was just curious what the future may be as you're talking about Clark closing out, so.
is there a ballpark amount between 1 through 7 on what you think might be coming back? Nothing will hold you to, just kind of a ballpark. I mean, are we talking $10,000 or 200,000?
125.
Yeah.
125.
125, give or take, somewhere right around there.
Okay. And we still have some on the roof package too. That's
Yeah.
that's not part of what we have contingent on the roof package, right?
That's separate,
Yes.
that's correct.
There was a little bit left, 75 maybe, I forget the exact dollar on that one that we didn't assign to that, but kind of holding back just to make sure because of the amount of work we're doing at Anderson.
Right.
With that roof. So, yeah, there is definitely some of those funds, and we will be finalizing those here in the next, like I said, hopefully next 4 to 4 weeks or so. Start closing that out and have a better picture for you guys of exactly where we're at.
So once we have an idea, then we can start talking about strategies for what we want to see.
We also have some doors that when Mr. Lay and I did the facilities walkthrough that are, that need to be replaced because they're broken, and we keep putting a Band-Aid on a few of the doors that I think we're gonna have to use part of the contingency money on a few of the doors that are not, they won't latch when they close all the way. They did a temporary fix, but it doesn't, depending on if it's cold or not. So we're having a struggle with at least one door in the district that I know doesn't close. That would be my preference, to make sure that we have safe doors. So that's something that I know.
Yeah, there was a pretty wide list of doors we had in the middle of the project, and then as we ran into other issues with parking lots and stuff, we shrunk that list down and down. Now we're looking to go back and address some of those doors. There's some site work, concrete, that, we didn't replace certain sections of broken concrete or parts, just drawn a line here for the parking lots and stuff. So we've kind of gone back and identified some of those areas you know, we're gonna get pricing to replace some of the sidewalks and stuff that didn't get replaced, you know, in the last 2 summers with the parking lots. So, I mean, there's a few things that, you know, we're looking at getting some of those prices, and been walking the district a little bit here, and gonna do some more on kind of reassessing some of those items.
Okay.
So,
All right.
just trying to kind of wrap up what we have first and make sure we know. So between this year and a lot of those are kind of we'll call them smaller onesie twosie projects where the plan really isn't to involve, you know, Clark Construction. Maybe if we get into a full bathroom remodel, maybe we bring them back in, or somebody where it's a bigger project. But if it's, you know, doors or concrete or painting or, you know, whatever onesie, we'll probably just go direct with those certain contractors. So that's why we're kind of trying to close out Clark and get them
And then
done
reassess
at
what
this
we
point.
need. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So the expected completion
I'm not
date
sure.
is
Hang on.
2018.
I'm not sure Mr.
No.
Kuchar was
I've been
also-
raising my hand for like 20
I know, but I'm
minutes
not
now.
sure he's I'm not
Go
sure he's
ahead.
finished.
No,
so.
let's go ahead, I'm sorry.
Dr. Pomponi?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Anything else?
And my only question was, is that and when the bond money is finally completely spent, does Plant Moran stay with us until that is completed? That was my,
I mean, as needed, we've talked about, you know, there's probably some that you won't need, you know, our participation for, and if there is some projects that you do, you know, it's kind of depends on what level it is. You know, if we're replacing a few doors here or there, you guys can probably do it direct, if you need some assistance with certain things. So it's just kind of as needed at this point. Main thing, you know, contractually that we're working on is the roofs and the furniture for this summer, and then moving forward with some additional stuff. I think we're just addressing it on a per project need or as needed basis. So,
thank you.
and anything in the future, you know, I know we were talking about maybe looking at doing a facility assessment, reassessing everything again. So we're gonna present that information to you guys, you know, here in the next month or so. And if that's something you guys are interested in, you know, definitely like to stay and help you guys out as much as we can. So.
I just wanted to add a couple things.
You want to say it? Anybody else up here? Okay.
The bond proceeds have to be spent by February of 2020. And the investment earnings that Ms. Pastor spoke of that we also have is not reflected on this dashboard. It's not part of the e-builder system. It's something that I do keep track of separately, and I update her usually monthly now, because we have a goal for that money, those funds, so.
Okay.
And is that going to be something that's unrolled or unpacked to the board? The goals for that?
Yeah, well, right now, it's the restrooms at the high school. That's our number one goal.
So that would have to be a full bid package, and
Yep.
it would have to go out this fall for next summer's project, and so it would definitely have to come to the board. That's,
Just got to know what kind of money you're dealing with first before you make that
yeah,
plan.
that's why I keep pushing her. Keep saving, keep increasing the money.
Okay.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
I do ask her about
We have no student government representatives. Committee reports, policy committee.
We have a policy, we're going to meet for April 18th. I think we decided on April 18th.
Are
for our
all
first-
three of you are, okay.
Yeah.
What time was it, Darlene?
4 p.m.?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Finance committee.
Unfortunately, since the last meeting, we had one scheduled for the end of March. There were multiple members of the committee that couldn't make it, so we rescheduled. The next one's going to be planned for April 25th.
And anti-bullying.
Okay, we have a scheduled big meeting. It's a parent support meeting over at Davidson, April 26th at 5:30. But if Rebecca and Andy can get together the 19th, that's a Thursday, or any time before that, we can look at some of the other agenda items for that night.
Right now, the 26th, but possibly the 19th.
Yes.
Okay, finance report.
So I wanted to give you an update tonight on the employee severance plan. I did receive my most recent update from EPC this afternoon. We currently have 12 teachers that have fully elected the plan. They've completed all their paperwork with EPC. Everything's completed. Out of those 12 teachers, 9 of them are general fund teachers and 3 of them are Act 18 teachers. In addition, the district does know of 2 other individuals who have been working on their paperwork, and their intent is to submit it this week. So that would be 2 additional general fund teachers for a total of 11 general fund teachers. They, the 45-day election window expires this Friday, April 13th, and then those who have elected have an additional 7 days to revoke their election if they would like to. So the final date would be April 20th. And that's where we're at right now with that. So I think we're pretty much at our goal. So my recommendation is that we will continue to proceed with this. And now it's the time of year I'm starting to work on budget amendments. So I have a budget amendment due for Beacon. The end of this week is my goal because it's due next week, and I'll be at the MSBO conference for 3 days next week, and I'm working on the general fund and other funds, the amended budgets, and then which will roll into the original budget for 2018-19. So it's going to be a busy few couple months.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. McLaughlin?
Mr. President?
Ms. Mossop?
So on our HR report, which we're getting ready to approve, these teachers that we see on here, retirements,
yes,
are they outside of the 12 that you mentioned?
No, they are not. They are part of
They're
the
part of
12.
it.
These are the individuals that have also...
Concrete, solid.
They also had to notify the district, and part of the teacher's contract is that if the district is notified of their retirement for the end of the school year by April 1st, they also receive an incentive. So these are the individuals where HR has received retirement letters from them. So we have a couple that we haven't. Okay.
One.
One.
Question as it relates to that. And maybe it's not appropriate for finance report, but it is in the topic. It relates to the HR report. With the 2 with effective dates as of end of October and end of November of 2018, would those be considered part of the early retirement package then?
Yes, they are. They need a little bit more time to get to the required 30 years with ORS, so we have granted them the opportunity not to come back as a full-time teacher, but to come back as a premier substitute, so they would be working in the district every day as a substitute and still getting their hours every day until they meet the requirements to retire with 30 years with ORS. So since it was only, partly into the year, that was what Ms. Pastor and I thought was the fairest thing to do. But they are still part of the, they are still eligible to receive the benefits of the employee severance plan. Their payments will just start later than everybody else's during 2018-19.
So then moving them into the premier, to the everyday sub category, will that change anything as far as their union representation, their salary?
No. No,
salary,
the salary, yes, not
So they'll
the
go
union
down to-
representation, but the salary, yes.
So then they will be
Yes, it's-
paid what we pay our premier subs?
They've
Yes.
agreed to that.
Okay.
Yes.
And then if we, and I know we spoke about this before, if we happen to do our new employee hire and search, are they able to scoot out before that, or are they subbing until they've got their time in?
So they need that time with ORS to be eligible to start receiving their payments from ORS.
So then our other teachers are those who have agreed to maybe expend a little bit more time as premier subs or whatever until, if we need to fill other positions?
So with staffing right now, it looks like we might not be replacing all of them.
Okay.
And so the full staffing news will come out on the 24th, so just in 2 weeks we'll know. You'll be able to see the projections for next year.
Okay. And will that be in a, will we get a, my mind is working against me. Will we have a presentation on that as it would reflect classroom size for the next year and things like that?
So class size is a little tricky because of one of the things on my superintendent update is that we've lost 75 students since the fall. And as we continue to do that, our class size fluctuates. So right now we just have projected numbers. And I would be glad to bring those projected numbers, or we could make an HR report that includes that with staffing. So Mr. Moran and I can work on doing something so that you have a picture of what it might look like for next year at this time, the best we know.
I would like to have, and if we are going to have a report like that, and if the board is interested in seeing that, I would like to see perhaps the last 4 years of loss or maintaining, and how our classroom sizes were affected during that time.
So I have class number, or I have the bottom lines, but I don't know. I'll have to check to see if we can pull those reports from MyStar. That's not as easy as looking at our fall and spring counts because they're all together per building. And so, for example, at Ford Line where you have the cross-categorical classroom like the K-1-2, it doesn't say, so it might say 57 kindergartners, but 7 of those could be in that cross-categorical classroom. So they're there, but it's not as clear. So it looks like there were only 2 teachers for those 57, but in actuality there were 3 teachers. So I could bring those and you could take a peek at them.
Well, one of the reasons I ask, and maybe this would give you a better idea on how it to be presented, is before you moved into this position, the number one thing with the bond was that we advertised it on the idea of smaller classroom sizes. So to know that we had a loss, we've done this program to let go 15 teachers on, their free will, and then maybe not hiring back, how that still makes sense with what we did spend or budgeted at that time for the millage money. Does that make sense?
So, yes. And, yes, I can bring those numbers on the 24th.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Well, all right, thank you very much. Curriculum report.
All right, or testing report. We finished right before break WIDA testing, a test for our English learners. We had 81 students that were tested in all 8 buildings. Today, MSTEP in most of the elementaries began, as well as the SAT and PSAT 8-9 took place today. Tomorrow, the 5th grade MSTEP testing will continue, along with work keys for 11th graders and PSAT 10 for 10th graders. 8th grade MSTEP testing begins next week, and 5th, 8th, and 11th grade MSTEP testing must be completed by May 4th. And then 3rd and 4th grade testing begins, and it has to be completed by May 25th. I was just going to give you a brief overview of the Michigan School Index System. You heard a little bit about it with their presentation. The actual scores and the index report was released on April 3rd. And there was a month-long preview where districts had an opportunity to review that, review calculations. There were some errors that were found that were reported to MDE. Those errors were updated, and then it was released on April 3rd. So the new system measures 6 key areas. And growth and proficiency you heard about with the elementary folks, but it's also school quality and student success, graduation rate, English learner progress, and assessment participation. And then each of the schools, based on what their information is collected, like an elementary wouldn't have a graduation rate, so the weighting is then dispersed amongst the other categories. But basically you get an overall index rating of 0 to 100. The average for the state was 66. This is also the way that they've identified students that need support, or districts and schools that need support. In the past, Asher was labeled a priority school that has been removed from the previous system. So we have no schools in the district that have been labeled as needed support with this new report. And I will definitely give a more in-depth presentation of it in May when I do the district improvement plan.
That's wonderful news.
It is.
For Asher to come off of the priority, I would love to hear all about that process. That's wonderful news.
She'll have to wait.
On the tips of my toes.
Any questions? No?
Just, Mr. President, you said that the state average was 66, broken down?
Most of our schools were at that, very close to that or above.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Superintendent's report.
So I'm going to say this twice. Leroy Street between Cameron and Drake will be closed completely for vehicle and pedestrian traffic in both directions beginning Monday, April 16th, 2018. The closure is part of an underground sewer repair. The roadway and sidewalk will be closed for approximately 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So I want to say that again.
Yes, please.
Leroy Street between Cameron and Drake will be closed completely in both directions beginning on Monday. The closure is part of a sewer repair, and the roadway and sidewalk will be closed for approximately 3 weeks. So this will affect the high school, Davidson, Asher, and anyone who travels in between. So we're in the last part of the school year, and I'd like to encourage all students to keep showing us their best. It is not too late to turn a poor grade into a better grade. Please set goals and make a plan on how to achieve your goals, and we believe that you are all capable. Our spring count numbers are in, and we lost approximately 75 students from the fall. We gained students at the K-5 level and at Beacon. We lost approximately 19 from Davidson, 45 from Anderson, and 39 from Asher. I just want to say thank you to all those dedicated members of the Southgate School staff. Thank you for coming to work with a positive attitude to make a difference for our students. Please consider telling someone thank you or that you noticed how hard they are working. There's actual science behind how showing gratitude makes us happier people. We are quick to react when we don't like something that has happened or want to call and complain on social media. You may really make someone's day by saying thank you. So I want to read something that was sent to Mr. Pinkowski just today. Dear Mr. Pinkowski, this is Coach Bobby, coach of the Airport Jets girls soccer team. I felt compelled to share my very positive experience at your school at yesterday's game, specifically with your head girls coach and the school staff. First, I want to compliment your girls soccer coach. This gentleman was extremely hospitable, and his treatment of girls was excellent. He showed tremendous class the entire game, and it was refreshing to have an opponent who carries the same values I do, kids first. I hope that we can play together every year, as I enjoyed meeting him and was very impressed with his positive coaching style. It was a joy to play him and his team. Further evidence of this is that his team played the game right away with class, heart, and passion. This is a reflection of the leadership of the coach. It is so awesome to get one of these, and it only takes a few minutes to say thank you. So I wanted to end on that note today.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Jill, I was curious as it relates to, Ms. Pastor, as it relates to the fall to spring counts and reduction, how does that trend comparatively in previous years? I imagine it would be, I mean, you're talking about high school and middle schools showing lower. It's not really elementary.
So I just got the spring count, and I actually didn't look at the trend over the next couple years, but it sounds like that's something I will bring on the 24th, so you can really see that. So we really pay a lot of attention to the fall-to-fall count, because that's where we get 90% of our FTE allowance. But sort of if we don't pay attention to the spring count, and here we start with 75 less students. If we roll our numbers forward, we have to really be paying attention to that spring count. We traditionally do lose between fall and spring, but I don't know the exact numbers. I'll bring those on the 24th.
Do we know what grade levels those were? I mean,
yes.
My question is, Asher and seniors from Anderson, how many does that impact rolling forward? Just curiously, in terms of fall FTEs and understanding that, I'm just kind of.
So I didn't look per grade level, but the information I'll bring you, the spring and fall counts, it says exactly how many per grade level.
Curious.
Do we know why they left? 19 from Davidson is a considerable amount of, do they move out of the district or?
I don't know. I didn't. So we in the past have really talked about, have we done follow-up? Do we know that they've moved out of Wayne County into another district? Have they moved out of state? And that's something that if we're going to really pay attention to student loss, that's something that we really need to do a better job of coding and following up on. And we just haven't made that a priority recently. So it might be something we can talk about.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Back to citizens' comments. Anybody who'd like to talk tonight? No? All right, on to the consent agenda, which consists of the March 27th, 2018 regular board meeting minutes, the HR update, and disbursements for March 2018. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Second.
Supported by Mr. Koopser. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Takes us to action item number 1, approval of out-of-state field trip to Imagination Station.
So you're being asked to approve an out-of-state trip for a request for Grogan Elementary School first grade students to visit Imagination Station in Toledo, Ohio. This field trip has been approved in the past, and if you're old like me, it used to be called COSI. Changed the name.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Pastor? No? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the May 2019 out-of-state trip request for first grade students from Grogan Elementary.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Green. Is there any support?
Support.
Supported by Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion? No? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There. Okay, the motion passes. I'm sure those kids will have a great time. Action item number 2, approval of school of choice applications, 1st through 11th grades, July 30th to August 17th, 2018.
So I have these as 2 separate motions because we cannot open the kindergarten school of choice for the same amount of time because we've already entertained that group for 10 days. So if you look at the request for enrollment 1st through 11th grade, this is looking at what we currently have and considering keeping class sizes close to where they are. Our first grade numbers, we have a little bit low kindergarten numbers, and those are really great on paper, but they're a little expensive. And so if we could, that's why the first grade numbers are a little high, and then 4th grade is also, and 5th grade are a little low. So the rest are just sort of backfilling the students that either are currently attending Southgate schools and have moved or may move and want to attend, or new surrounding non-resident students to attend.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Pastor? Mr. Koopser.
Make sure I'm reading this report right. Are these new openings per grade level, or is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And these are for next year. That's what we're looking as the roll-up, basically.
Yes. So Mr. Koopser, the kindergarten is a total number, the 50. We took almost 30 the first round. Is that correct, Ms.? Yes.
Right, you have to, you have to deduct what we've already taken from.
Correct, but that's the
Still
total
here.
openings.
Right. And that's the next motion, right? Or that's
It's
the next-
correct, I
that's
just
the next
wanted
action
to
item.
make sure I
Okay.
answered.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Mossam.
are we still staying in the voted on percentage of school of choice? This keeps us still around that percentage?
So we've been pretty low, we've been decreasing pretty low. I don't remember exactly what that percentage is, but we're not close to that.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions for Ms. Pastor? Okay. All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the school of choice application period as outlined for a 4-week period from Monday, July 30th to Friday, August 17th, 2018 for 1st through 11th grade students.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, supported by Mr. Green. Any discussion on the item?
The 4 weeks?
It's 20 days. It's 20 actual working days. That's, we have to follow the Wayne County.
Okay, just, all right.
There's a method to the madness.
Yeah.
All right, just make sure the proposal's correct in that sense.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion? No?
I have one more item,
Ms. Moss.
Mr. President. I was looking through our budgets last month and this month, and what are we doing to advertise? Where are we advertising, and how much have we spent on that?
So the funds were spent last summer that were advertised for last, the school years. And so I've asked for another $5,000 to do marketing, and I actually am meeting with the person tomorrow that does Southgate Today, that also does mailers that will put 15,500 mailers, so it will be in every Southgate residence box, sort of a flyer that talks about Southgate residents and some Southgate school choice information, and we're looking to target some surrounding neighborhoods. So for example, the neighborhood in Taylor that's the closest to Southgate, and some neighboring Lincoln Park areas. So I'll see tomorrow exactly how much, but I actually, the FIT committee did come up with some bullet points for the marketing flyers, and I have it put together, and I'm meeting with a lady tomorrow at 2, so.
So has that $5,000 already been approved?
So we're kind of borrowing it from the millage money at this point, because the general fund, we put out the money in the general fund and it was already used. So the only available money is the millage fund at this
But does it have to come to a board vote?
Millage money does not.
Okay. And then with the advertising, is there any way for the board to have a look or make suggestions? I know one of the best adverts I've seen in recent years was a school district who sent out just that really nice 11 by 5 flyer. That's maybe what you're talking about. And they had students who were 1st through 3rd year graduates talking about where they are now. And I felt like that was really impressive to see where those kids ended up. So I don't know the
So I didn't do
conversation that went.
anything that with the amount of the quick turnaround at this point. One of the things that I'm impressed with a couple, I'm not going to say which district, but when you click on a district website and they have sort of the story of their district, and it includes students talking about where they were and where they are now.
I know what you're talking about, yes. I think that caused us a little bit of tension for a minute in this district, but they do a very, very good job. And a lot of that's online, too. It's free. So when would that be mailed out?
So tomorrow is just the first meeting with her to get the actual company does the mock-up, and then we'll go from there. But I would be glad to send it to the board as, hey, what else can we think about at this time? The turnaround for this is a little quick, but moving forward, one of the things I know Mr. Estheimer spoke with me about personally was if we are not letting our own residents know that we really care about their children attending our district because they don't get anything from us, but they get something from surrounding districts, then maybe they feel like, hey, we don't care enough to send something. So I know that he was pretty committed to saying we need to hit our own residents. And frankly, in looking at our mobility numbers, if we kept our own students here in Southgate, we wouldn't be talking about the big student loss that we continue to talk about year after year, so.
That's a little ironic to hear, but thank you very much.
Any further questions or discussion? None? All right, I'll go ahead and call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And on to number 3, approval of school of choice applications, kindergarten, August 6th through to August 17th, 2018. Ms. Pastor.
Oh, I would just like to, it's basically the same. I'd really like to.
It's just a shorter.
It's just a.
I know, but we still have to go through the.
Okay, I would like to request that the board
procedure.
approve the
We
school
gotta
choice
process it.
enrollment for kindergarten as presented in the attached document.
Mr. President, you interrupted her very deep thought there.
I was totally in deep thought about.
We gotta stay on schedule.
The next thing I have to do.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Pastor? No, okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Southgate School of Choice application period as outlined for a 2-week period from Monday, August 6th to Friday, August 17th, 2018 for kindergarten students.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Koopser. Any support?
Support.
Supported by Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion?
Sorry,
It's
how
been-
can this be 2 weeks, the other one be 4? I'm just sorry.
Maybe it's
This is-
3, gosh.
Used up, we used up some of the time already for kindergarten.
We did it a little
We've already
earlier.
used.
Yeah, we used.
We had a
yeah,
10-day
you're
I'm just
already-
talking about the dates.
Yeah.
Just the dates.
He's talking
But
about the
because
week.
we already
6th to
used
the
up some of
17th, there's a
We
2-week
opened
period.
kindergarten on
We
its
already
own
opened up
earlier.
kindergarten, so we already used some of the time.
That's not the
It's
point.
2 weeks, but it's still 10
Not
days.
the point.
He's talking about the July one he wants to.
Let it go.
He's a confused little boy.
It is 3 weeks.
He's hung up on the details.
I have no point. Go
Okay,
ahead, I'm sorry.
you're all set?
Let's move
So-
this meeting forward, sorry.
It has to
The
do with the
reason we're-
total amount of business days that you're allowed to offer it.
Correct, but we also want to make sure that if you're registering 9th through 11th grade, that you have the opportunity to attend the orientation meetings at the high school. So that's one of the reasons why we stopped it on the 17th. We don't want to take a new student and they miss that opportunity to select classes and do their link crew orientation things, so.
There's reasons for all of them.
Mike, you're missing the point. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. All right, do we have any employee representatives who would like to speak tonight? Okay, none. Any information or announcements? Dr. Pomponio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the Winter Guard competition. I want to say good luck to them. They're going to Dayton, Ohio tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, 11th, 12th, and 13th. Good luck. And then the M-STEP dates for Davidson, 8th grade, April 17th through 19th, 7th grade, May 2nd and 4th, 6th grade, May 9th and 10th, and then the Heritage Days Parade is June 14th. And then the Southgate Parks and Recreation has their 43rd annual Spectacular on Ice. It's called Your Autograph, Please, and that's Friday, April 27th, April 28th, and April 29th. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. From Mr. Estheimer, he sent me an email asking me to make an announcement from via Miss Ball at Ford Line. So Ford Line is going to have has two fundraisers going on right now. Uncle Jerry's T-shirt fundraiser, which the top 6 sellers get to choose a prize basket, and then a Spellathon, in which the top pledge winners from each class receives a prize. Uncle Jerry's is due next Monday, and Spellathon is due next Thursday. They also have a family fun dance scheduled for Friday, April 27th, sponsored by the Ford Line PTO. And lastly, they have the April PTO meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. That is the shortest Mr. Estheimer announcements in the history of this board.
He wasn't here for it.
That's right, and he's watching though. Hi, Tim. Myself, I would like to make a couple announcements. I'd like to wish everybody, all of our students, good luck in the national testing window in the next couple weeks, no matter what grade, all the teachers for all their diligent hard work, and the administration for the daunting task of the the state testing window, excuse me. I'd like to wish our sports teams good luck in the snow, the spring sports in the snow. Piggyback or Dr. Pomponios for our group tomorrow. Also, coming from the alternative ed, Asher, Mr. Samborski, I had the pleasure of speaking with today. We have hired, and I'm not sure this is the right title, but it's a workforce coordinator or transitional coordinator to help our students from Asher obtain jobs that we just hired, which was obtained from one of the grants that Mr. Samborski wrote for Asher. He's very excited about it. It's exciting for our students that attend Asher. Grogan Elementary School in March. A big shout out to the teachers, Ms. Wheaton, especially for putting on the superhero Title I reading night. They also have another book fair, or not another one, but a book fair coming up at the end of this month in April. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other information or announcements? Okay. No work items tonight, so we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Dr. Pomponio. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you very much.